I'm honored to be joined from Tel Aviv by Michal, who's agreed to speak. How are you doing, Michal?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm impressed that we've got a connection at all, really, with the way things are. But I'd just like to play you a video that I saw on social media that I believe that you were somehow involved in. Well, I mean, the police there took away a banner. Can you tell us what was on the banner?
The banner said in 3 different languages, stop the genocide, in Hebrew, Arabic, and English, referring to the genocide in Gaza that's happening at the moment.
And where was that protest? Was it in a particular place in Tel Aviv that is of note?
It's in the center of Tel Aviv, but more particularly, it's exactly where we used to stand during the big demonstrations that were happening before the war, the so-called democracy demonstrations against the government. And we used to come every week and have a radical bloc, anti-occupation bloc, there, standing there to remind the people that democracy is not only for Jews, but for everyone who lives between the river and the sea. And we used to come there every week. And now we're trying to stand there against the war again in the same place.
And so I mean, you've been protesting in that place for a while. Then, how long have you been speaking on this or active in speaking out against what's happening?
Personally, I've been doing this since around 2008 or 9. Before that, I used to live in London, actually. And when I came back to live in Tel Aviv, I started being active in anti-occupation and justice and equality actions.
Right. We spoke to Yael Khan on the show a few weeks ago, and she was active in Tel Aviv, in Israel. I'm not sure if it's Tel Aviv, but she found that her family and lots of friends disowned her because of what she was saying. Have you had that experience as well?
No, not really. My family comes from a sort of Zionist Left background, and some of what I do they support, but they never really disown me or anything like that. Even if they don't agree with me, we can have a discussion. I'm lucky in that way.
Before October the 7th, there were these protests that took place where that demonstration was. Have the numbers of people that you saw on those protests before against Netanyahu, has that number decreased? Are they all falling in behind Netanyahu?
Yeah, that is absolutely the case. I mean, these demonstrations don't exist anymore as such. When we had hundreds of thousands of people coming out, they are not coming out now against anything. If at all, they come to support the families of the hostages, but they don't speak so much against the government. There is a small nucleus of the more hardcore people against Netanyahu. They come out, but this is really in the tens of people, like maybe 40, 50 people every week. Not nearly as many as were there before.
And what's the media in Israel? Does that just prohibit any criticism of what's happening?
A lot of it is self-censorship in a way that people say this is not the time, we're at war, we have to stand behind the government and the soldiers. This is very typical of Israel. Whenever there's a security crisis situation, people do fall behind and identify with the state and with the army. So this is part of it. Also, the media definitely shows a very restricted view of what is happening. The mainstream media. Basically, they don't show any people in Gaza. They show buildings. They show Israeli soldiers speaking, highly motivated soldiers, and there is no sense of any suffering of anyone over there. It's as if it's a sterile war. We're just destroying buildings and buildings that had terrorists in them. That is the message.
So how do you get information about like you're saying, the genocide? I mean, that's all from social media, and they can't stop people accessing that, I suppose.
They can't, but people here, the vast majority choose to be blind. They don't want to know. My colleagues, my friends, comrades had a demonstration last Friday in the center of Tel Aviv where they simply showed photos, printouts of views from Gaza with people suffering, children killed, people hungry, whatever is happening there. And they were attacked violently by passers-by. People just do not want to know, and they actively choose not to go where they can get the information. They are just fed by the official information, and that's fine for them.
Oh, and so you had that banner taken away. Is that a common thing that the police will come and stop you, as well as you say passers-by attacking people, but with the police getting involved in stopping people speaking out?
Yes, they do. The police on the ground, we don't know exactly if they decide or they get orders from above, but certain messages are not allowed. To say this banner saying "Stop the Genocide" was taken away. Recently, we had signs saying "Stop the Massacre." These were taken away systematically. Whereas now, for some reason, signs that say genocide are okay. It's a strange thing. We don't know why the massacre they take away. You can stand there saying ceasefire now, political solution now, that's fine, but stop the massacre, they take away. And what they say is that it hurts the sentiments of the public and can cause public disorder. And that's their legal excuse for taking these things away.
Well, you say the numbers have gone down since before October 7th, but are any more people coming do you think, to see that there must be a ceasefire now in the Gaza? I mean, is the public opinion changing at all, do you think, in the past, what is it, three months? Has it moved?
No, it hasn't, and it's really incredible because even from Israel's point of view, soldiers are getting killed every day, and you ask yourself, it's the same government that you didn't believe in 2 months ago, and that got you to this crisis situation, and now you're trusting them to handle the situation, and believing every word they say about their goals and what they're doing in Gaza. It's a very strange situation. But people here do believe that it's an existential crisis, and we need to fight Hamas, and whoever is around Hamas. They don't make the distinction between civilians and terrorists, and they just think we need to keep going with the war, and if we stop, it's a national disaster.
I'm interested also to hear, that anti-Semitism has been used against people in this country for protesting against what's happening. Is anti-Semitism being used in Israel as well? Is it seen as a religious war in any way? Is that being put forward by media and the government, or is that just something that we're getting over here more?
No, it's absolutely the case here as well. The justification, what they compare Hamas to, is the Nazis, and the messages that they want, that they are fighting Israel because we are Jews, not because of a political situation, not because of an occupation, not because of the siege of Gaza, but merely because they don't like Jews. And that is the message, and that's why people see psychologically, they are afraid and they believe these messages, and so they think that we need to keep going with the war. And
Right.
any criticism of Israel is read as anti-Semitic, including the International Court of Justice or newspapers or even public opinion, the demonstrations in many cities around the world. It's all painted as anti-Semitism.
Wow. So, I mean, it's a fear thing that so it's a kind of the state and the media are making people very fearful, and that's quite, I suppose, reasonable for them to then think, oh, we've got to do something about this. If you're brainwashed in that sense, do you think that the Israeli state is particularly good at brainwashing and sort of putting people into fear?
It is, I think, it starts with the education system, and everything is somehow connected to the Holocaust, our existence here, or the threats that we face. It's all part of the same narrative that's been going on for 2,000 years of the persecution of the Jewish people, and they're very good at doing that, and people don't even notice how much they are within that narrative. It is very, very powerful.
Right, and I mean, you've got these ideas that are not, you've not been influenced particularly or brainwashed, whatever. And you say your parents are from a left background. Are you very unique in that way? Do you feel like a real outsider? How do you feel? I mean, do you feel there's other people that they're just too afraid to speak out?
Uh, Not really. I think we're a very, very small group who are able to see through what we're being told, and each person comes from a different background that allows them to do that. For me personally, I think it's a lot because I spent many years outside of Israel. Because coming from a Zionist left family would not help me to see beyond the narrative. That this is the narrative. Um, um,
Hmm.
the Zionist left can be against the occupation, definitely. They would say we don't want settlements, we don't need this land that is not ours. But they find it hard to see the discrimination against Arabs within Israel, um, and the fact they would find it very hard to think that the very fact that the country defines itself as a Jewish state makes it racist. That is a kind of a taboo that very few people can digest, even if they call themselves left wingers.
Right. And so, uh, do you see a two-state solution as possible? I mean, is that would be a Zionist left perspective, would it not? I mean, do you think that's still possible?
Uh, it's hard to see how it can be. I spend a lot of time in the West Bank, and when you're there, I don't know if you've been there, but you can really see how entrenched the settlements are. They're not some kind of a tent with a flag. They're big settlements. They've been there for many years. They seem very rooted in the place. It's hard to imagine them being dismantled. Plus, there's been a real effort to make it impossible to have a Palestinian state there, with roads that dissect everywhere, and really making it a piecemeal kind of state. You cannot see physically on the ground where it would be a continuous territory that would make a state. And that's part of the settlement project, is to do that, to create Jewish settlement continuums that break up the continuity of any Palestinian population within the West Bank. So it's hard to see how it would happen. Plus, it would only happen if there is real pressure from the outside to do it. The Israelis are not going to volunteer any land and any control to the Palestinians. And until now, pressure from outside was not really strong enough. It was mainly words, not many actions. Maybe this war will change it. That is the small hope that we have, is that this will be a game changer in that way. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's a. I mean, do you feel at all fearful about speaking out to me or anyone in the West and the other countries about what's happening?
No, it hasn't come to that situation yet. If being Jewish and being from here, there's no real danger at this point. This war has taken a lot of civil rights from Arab citizens of Israel. They are basically now unable to speak. They're not allowed to demonstrate at all. And a lot of them are actually in jail for posting things on Facebook, such as there are children in Gaza. This really, literally, this kind of sentence would get them into jail for incitement. So they have been silenced in a major way since the war started. But as of yet, Jews can pretty much say what they want. They might get anger, they might get hate speech, but legally, there's still not a big problem for us to say these things.
Right, well, it's really good that you've come and spoken, because we just don't get this perspective here. Our media is just so in favor of Israel. It's unbelievable. And we've got Al Jazeera to watch what's happening. So I mean, I can't imagine how it must feel for you to be speaking out and knowing this is the case, but everyone sort of passing by and ignoring you and taking pictures away from people who are showing what's happening. Is it demoralizing? How do you feel in your spirit?
Personally, I've been very sad and a little hopeless, I have to say. The situation, first of all, I want to acknowledge the trauma that the Israeli population went through on the 7th of October. That in itself touches me as well. People who were there in the kibbutzim that were attacked. First of all, it could have been me very easily. People from the center of Israel went to visit their relatives for the holidays and got caught up in this. And it's not as if Hamas cares what I think about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So people have to understand that this attack was real, and it could have been anyone in Israel who was not just crazy right-wing people who were attacked, or soldiers, or anything like that. So that in itself has made people very sad, because it's still ongoing. People are suffering as hostages in Gaza. So that's one thing. And then the reaction that Israel has taken against this is completely disproportionate, and the numbers of Palestinians getting killed in Gaza is just really inconceivable. And the way that people here don't care about it at all, they don't want to hear. They say, I don't have any empathy for them. I'm sorry, they hurt us so much. I can't. There's no place in my heart for this. And it's incredible that people can say that. And so there's just sadness from every direction. Plus, I wanted also to say that one thing that we've been able to do and had to do as a group of people, activists in Israel is to go to the West Bank and spend what we call protective presence with communities in the South Hebron Hills and the Jordan Valley. Under the guise of this war, the settlers, the army, the state is waging an attack on these communities and trying to exploit the war situation to make them go away, basically. And we go there and we try to just be there in solidarity and stem this tide. That's also a very, very depressing situation because quite a few communities have given up and had to leave because of the way that they attack them is physically. They come at night to houses where there are families, children, they're armed, and they say, "What are you still doing here? If you're here in 24 hours, we're going to come and kill you." And so some communities just were too afraid and left. They go and just leave their land and go and live in the city where they have nothing. It's not their lifestyle, and it's not their home. Also, they, under the guise of being threatened by Hamas, for some reason they find it in themselves to say that no Palestinian can go and graze their herds anymore, apart from in their vicinity and in like near their home. They can't go with the herds. They can't work the land anymore. They could hardly harvest. It was harvest season for the olives in October, and they could hardly do any harvest. And these are communities, they're very poor. They rely on their sheep, on the olive, on the wheat that they grow. And the economic damages that they suffer now, and they're scared, they can't go anywhere, the children are terrified. To see that is also very, very difficult to see. So from every direction, really, it's not a happy situation here at all.